Thanks, man.
All right, guys. Today we'll be interviewing one of our members to find his personality type. Alex. He's well known in our community at this point. Um, can you introduce yourself, man? And how'd you get into typology?
For sure. I'm Alex, obviously. Currently 20 years old, and I'm currently majoring in computer science. It's what I study. Um, and I got into typology, I think, when I was 14. The first time I discovered about 16 personalities, and that was very interesting finding out about that you can cluster people or categorize people. And I was always kind of interested, or not always, but I was interested in understanding how people work in their circuitry,
Mhm.
how it works. So, and I think later on with 16 or something, I discovered about cognitive functions, which was quite a game changer, I think, because it definitely led to much deeper understanding of things, but it it drove me nuts that there wasn't clear definitions about NI. It kind of had NE and TI things in it, so that confused me.
Hmm.
And only much later on, I discovered other people,
Hmm.
Voldemort, for example, who talked a lot about type, and
Hmm.
he had interesting concepts. And then fairly recently, I discovered you guys, and I think that definitely skyrocketed my understanding of type.
Yeah, yeah. The thing about NIs is just it's one of those mysterious functions. Even myself, like I look at it and I'm just like, there's like two distinct versions of NI that I see. There's the like this is my vision NI, and there's the synthesizing information NI, right? And you'll notice it kind of plays out differently based on the person, right? I would say Thomas is more synthesizing information, right? He's gonna be synthesizing
Is
a lot
it
more
is
things.
it holistic versus analytical NI, maybe?
I don't want to say that so much. It's just like this is just what I've seen. That you'll see more of the type that's like Thomas. He's gonna be synthesizing information all the time, kind of pulling it together into one. And then there's this like the INTJ or like NI person who's like, I got to achieve this vision for myself, or this vision I want to become a reality. And you'll see those two different types. Uh, that's what I've mainly seen. It's interesting to see the differences. Um, but yeah, and I think a lot of people have time because they're trying to figure out which one it is for people, and so they can't like they're trying to put it all into one, right? Instead of like separating it, because it's like an introverted function, so it's kind of different based off the host. That's what I would say. A lot of
Ah.
that's how I look at a lot of introverted functions. Is it varies based off the host. Um, yeah. What do you like about typology? What do you dislike?
Oh, I well, one thing is that I think it has some interesting communities, yours especially, where you can just freely discuss typology. I don't see it with friends. Maybe I have too many concrete friends for that matter. Um, and also that it kind of helps understanding people. I think I like that a lot. So yeah, that's for sure. Uh, there are also communities that seem very toxic or narrow-minded in their way of understanding type, like PDV. I had so many stupid discussions there.
Mhm.
Uh, you can't argue with some people, so
Yeah.
uh, it's sometimes very bad.
Well, I think the big thing with them is they just like, right, me and Thomas have dealt with it. They just like surface level and they run with it, right? Is this person eats somebody eye, like, and they really have like no like understanding at all. That's the crazy thing about type. It's so quick that people can just like run out there very quickly. Oh, I seen this, and and then they try to apply it and then it's like fucking wrong. Just like anything in life, it's like it's always a little deeper a lot of times. So what frustrates you about other people?
I think I kind of subtly mentioned it a bit. If you can't argue with them, that's one of a big. It's a big factor for me because I don't know. It just drives me nuts. I really want to have a rational, logical discussion with people, but sometimes, or most of the times, in my experience at least, you can't have it. Most are either biased, fall into fallacies, or are very narrow. So
Mhm.
so so that annoys me definitely. I think I can tolerate a lot of people and their eccentricities or whatever, but
Mhm.
not that. It's hard sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, I totally understand. Thomas, anything?
Yeah, well, I think what you're referring to is what I often call it's like it's just Dunning-Kruger syndrome. Like the idiots think they're
Mm.
smart,
Yeah,
basically, and it's like everyone wants their opinion to matter. Everyone,
Yeah.
th they can have absolutely no clue what they're talking about, but they want their opinion to matter.
yeah.
Um, but besides that, I guess just to get back to it, what if everything goes as planned, where would you see yourself in the next like 5 years or 10 years?
Well, I I hope I definitely or finish most of my schoolwork and start a doctorate. It depends. For me in STEM, I think the average time for doing a doctorate is like 5 years. Um, I think it will take exactly that time, and so kind of in that.
You,
I
you
think I will be in that position.
you said you're studying computer science,
Yeah, yeah,
and
exactly.
and, and what exactly can you do with that? Like what do you like what kind of field are you trying to go into?
Ah, okay, okay.
I don't know much about it.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there are several areas. For example, programming is one area that I think anybody knows a bit, or that it exists,
Hmm.
and belongs to computer science. There's also the technical stuff, which is more about hardware. So, I mean, you definitely learn about how computers work, processors. I even made, I even emulated processors when I programmed in RISC-V assembly. That's just programming language, which is the lowest level of abstraction that you have when you have computer code. It's basically just acronyms and stuff, and you're trying to transport information from one register to another.
Hmm.
But I wasn't too much interested in that. Uh, there's programming that's somewhat interesting. You learn object-oriented programming. It's very object-based. It really is what the name says it is about. You have an object and you can describe it. In Java, you have classes where you can which you can create to reference objects and stuff, or create objects for that matter. Um, and there's theoretical computer science, which is um, it's more about the theory underpinning computer science itself, like what is computability, what is complexity. Complexity is you have an algorithm, like you sort something, like objects, abstract objects, numbers, whatever. It's very abstract field, I think, and
Hmm.
it takes some time, uh, like linear time or quadratic time until that algorithm finishes its work. It's a lot of about algorithms and also what computability is. So what the computer can compute and what it can't. And there are definitely things it can't compute. Like there's this busy beaver function. I think fairly recently it was discovered that it could calculate to number five, but or the fifth place of what that thing would be. Um, but it's just too complicated. There doesn't exist one general algorithm that can solve it. Uh, yeah, I don't know if that's too much strange information, not explained well.
It's all good, man. It's all good, man. I'm sure Thomas enjoyed that. Right, T.
Hmm.
Um,
If you have
so,
any more questions,
oh,
you can
definitely,
ask. Feel
definitely.
free.
I mean, what's your thoughts on AI with that, right? Because AI is coming in and it's kind of a lot of times, those big corporations like Microsoft and Google are talking about how they're replacing even Meta, are talking about how they're replacing a lot of good engineers with AI. like
Mm.
and you're still trying to go into that, going into the future, like, so how do you plan to navigate that?
Um, so I don't think AI will take over, just because I mean it is very good at emulating at its point a human being with ChatGPT. I know a lot of friends that have regular discussions with it, but it only emulates it. It's nothing other than still a static system, and a human being is a dynamic system. So it doesn't have the ability to generalize, to think abstractly, and therefore I think there are so many fields that are so complex that they require exactly that level of abstraction human beings are able to do or at all.
Hmm.
So I don't definitely don't think it will take over.
Okay.
Um,
I got one thing I'm gonna say. I'm gonna push back on that because I think a lot of
okay.
times when people look at a lot of things, they're not thinking for the future, right? They're looking at AI today, but what is AI gonna be 2, 3, 4 years from now? I think that it may be able to do a lot more than humans within the next 10 years, just
Mhm.
being honest. So what's your thoughts on that? Because you're talking about spending 5 years. By the time it's 5 years, I think it might, might be over by that time. Being serious,
Huh?
like it like being dead ass serious. Like I think within 5 years, you're talking about like I mean, it's the way that it's accelerating, is insane. I mean, you're talking about like 2 years
Yeah,
ago,
yeah.
like it was not like it couldn't do the programming that it's doing now, or
Mm.
even close to it. And now it's just like I forget what they're saying, but every like 3, 4 months, it's like doubling or something.
Mm.
With the processing information. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on that, man?
Um, I mean, I'm not too deep into AI,
Sure.
unfortunately. It's definitely interesting, but I haven't specialized in that area, so I can't make too not I can't really argue about that.
Hmm.
um, but it just doesn't. I mean, in science it always was a strange thing because
Hmm.
something doesn't seem realistic,
Hmm.
even in 10 or 100 years, until it suddenly does because there was some discovery made that you just
Hmm.
didn't know about.
Hmm.
So that kind of feeds into your point. I can totally see why you think that. Um, but I think we shouldn't forget that an AI is still nothing other than a very goodly written computer program or a program that maybe is able to write itself. But um, as complicated as the human brain works, it um, it just I think it doesn't seem it doesn't seem necessarily true that it will happen at least in 5 or 10 years. Although
Hmm.
I understand that it really is exhilarating. I think 3 years ago I also couldn't even imagine that we get something like ChatGPT.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that is kind of my take on it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I totally get it. Just wanted to dig into that, because it's like a different
Yeah.
perspective. Instead of just asking like, normal boring questions that I kind of want to dig into who you were. Um, so can you give us 3 words people would use to describe you?
People would use. I think they would definitely say I'm arguing a lot, but I think it stems from the fact that if someone is spreading misinformation, which I think is misinformation, hmm, then because I have some scientific background, so and also I read a lot.
Hmm.
I read about psychology and stuff. Then people are maybe overgeneralizing from their experience, and I think, well, that's not true.
Hmm.
So and then we kind of argue about it. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so. Some people I know remark that I do that a lot, and some people just dislike that. um, I can understand why, but I can't help it. Definitely, maybe okay, maybe that's co-linear or something. I'd say also rigorous in my reasoning and thinking. I or too strict. Because I sometimes try to just understand what people say. Um, Maybe too much. Um, or it maybe overinterpreting things. Um, and what else? Maybe.
So we got two other
Um,
things you said. Basically, argumentative is one. I'm guessing you go with that. Two other things.
okay. Uh, mm, I think fun because I think I sometimes in social situations go into some sort of um NE overdrive mode. I sometimes think I call it I
Mm-hmm.
call it that. Um, if someone says anything, I don't have hard time just making a funny statement about it or come up with puns and stuff. Sometimes I can do that constantly. I can just spam them out. If the professor says something in the lecture, I can make it funny in some sense with some unrelated stuff. Um, I can't give you many examples because most of them are in German. I'm I, uh, I'm I'm a German. I speak a lot of German, so uh, that for sure. And agreeable, agreeable in the sense of how the five-factor model says what agreeable is. I think I identify with that a lot. That I'm still trying to keep kind of the harmony. Um, I get argumentative, but I can't just at least in the moment dismiss someone's opinion. Um, I mean, I can say that it's not correct what they're saying, but I can't say you're wrong. I can't say it bluntly or whatever. So I think that's what people would use to describe me.
Okay, okay. What do you think are your best skills?
Uh, I could answer that generically, but I think something unique might be that when I learn about something about an abstract concept, it's sometimes easy for me to see its application in the real life. For example, I did that. Yeah. There. Uh, in real life, like when I learned first about functions and real analysis in high school, I immediately try to apply that to find the optimal um, temperature through a function where when I cook my tea, uh, well, what the optimal temperature would be, um, and all those stuff. I usually forget examples, so can't give you too much. That I think that would help, but I think that's something that I think is um, well is true
Hmm. Okay,
or is
okay. Um, what do you like? What are your hobbies, man? Besides typology, things of that nature.
um well I like watching anime.
Okay,
There are some awesome. I just recently started watching One Piece again. I
okay.
haven't watched it in quite a while.
Quite a lot of
Very
episodes,
good
man.
anime.
Quite a lot of
What?
episodes. So many episodes, man.
Yes, that's it's gonna be quite a commitment to watch everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I just said fuck that and read the books. I mean the mangas. Like I was like, I'm not about to watch all of this shit. Like, and so I fucking just read the manga. It's way faster. Um,
okay.
and you skip a lot
Interesting.
of
I thought.
fillers. Skip a lot of fillers as well.
Hmm. I thought watching is kind of faster, but the manga is always, or I think most of the time, better, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I like the manga because it allows me to use my own imagination. to imagine the things for from my own brain, which often seems to me to be better than what people make in reality. So it's like if I get an opportunity to kind of go with that, I'm gonna go with my own like imagination of things. But like I do like the fight scenes and shit like that sometimes. It's pretty cool. Um,
For sure.
yeah, yeah. Let's see. So you like manga? Why you like anime? What attracts you to that?
Good question. I think it's just fun to watch. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes the art style is funny. Um, Sometimes it has underrated storytelling. So, I mean, One Piece has, I think, a solid story.
Hmm.
Um, Monster is a good anime that has an interesting storyline. So I think there are creative works that are definitely underrated or that are still very good of good quality. Um, and I don't know, it kind of is just interesting. I don't exactly know what it is. I mean, I watch really everything. I've
Hmm.
watched Breaking Bad, something very realistic in some sense. I watch a lot of documentaries and also anime. Everything that's kind of interesting or fun.
Yeah, yeah. I don't really watch much TV outside of like anime and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, I've watched like hundreds of animes at this time, like to a point to where like I can like look at an anime and kind of like see the ending. So I kind of took a step back on watching animes now because it's like if you've seen one shonen, you've seen them all. Unfortunately,
So true.
same shit. Like it's the same fucking shit. Um, going
Every
on
character is the same.
all fucking characters the same. It's the same shit. Like I'm gonna be this guy. Now you're going on a fucking journey to become that person, and da 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 da. And then you go on adventures here and there, and you fight this villain, and then you fight an INTJ villain at the end, and it's the same shit, dude. It's literally the fucking same shit. So I'm just like, I've been done with it for like maybe 10 years, but I stay up with One Piece because just the theories aspects of One Piece is like you can just craft all these theories in your head about like, what's Dragon's power, or what's like, what's gonna be the end goal, like what's really laugh till? Like, is it gonna be like something? Is it gonna be a treasure? Is it just gonna be like, people drinking sake at the end? You're thinking about all these different like possibilities and you're trying to figure it out before you get to the end. So I think that's one of the best parts about that and to see if your theories are correct, you know. Um, but
Yeah, yeah. I can see that theorizing aspect. I also enjoy that. Uh I like a lot of Star Wars lore, for example, and has they also theorize a lot. Also in anime.
mhm.
I
Yeah, yeah.
think that's also very interesting. I forgot about that, but yeah, yeah, definitely.
I think that's the best part about it because you're like sitting there, you're going down rabbit holes, and you're like trying to look at stuff that's
Yeah.
not there, and you're looking at numbers, like you're looking at time, because sometimes people, especially those people who write those mangas, I mean not mangas, but a lot of them are INTP, and like they kind of put a little extra shit here and there for people to look at, but that can help you solve it. I mean, the guy Oda came out and he's like he hates people like trying to theorize it and when they're correct, he hates that. So uh, sometimes you get big surprises. Like I didn't think he killed Ace, so that surprised the fuck out of me. I'm still mad about that. I almost quit that fucking anime when I seen that shit.
I get that.
I had to come back, man, because Ace was
I
cool
saw that
back
as
then.
a kid. It just broke me.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
had to cry, man.
it's a very sad like especially like when you look at like the character of who Ace is and stuff like that, it's tough, man. Poor guy was always
Yeah.
suffering, to be honest. He was always suffering um, from his own dad's name. So when faced with a new problem, what's your first instinct?
Okay. Mm, but that might depend on the problem, but I think the first thing I would do is well, what is this problem about? What is this? If there are words, then I may research them, or if the terminology, when confronted, for example, with a math problem, that was maybe too academic approach. If something just new comes up, I don't know, um, something real life, whatever that is, Um, well, I think I would just try to figure out how to solve it. And if I really don't know how to solve it, um I might just do some research because most of the time the internet has a lot of stuff that would help you in that regard. So, uh, yeah, I think it really depends on the problem itself,
Hmm.
what it is.
That makes sense, man. Um, what do you spend the most time thinking about?
Given that I'm a CS major, I spend a lot of time thinking about the concepts and learning them and understanding them properly. I think that is definitely important because it's very structured, and if in maths it's especially bad if you don't know the basics, you can't do the advanced stuff. So you
Mhm.
have to put more time into
The
learning
basics. Yeah.
the basics.
Yeah.
Um, wait, what was the question about? I
What do you
forgot.
spend the most time thinking about?
Ah, thanks. So that for sure. Um, and also I think spend a lot of time up thinking about, well, what would I do or what do I have to do in the next week? I mean, my life really revolves around my studies, so it's fairly monotone. I don't particularly plan social interactions. I just when someone says yo or calls me yo, let's do something, I think okay, fine. I
Hmm.
think I have then or then time to squeeze that in. Um, but yeah, that and it's hmm, don't think if I don't know. It's sometimes very random. Also, I spend if I have watched some anime or videos about it, I spend some time thinking about that. Um, yeah. Mm,
Okay. Let's go to another question, man. What's your biggest
okay.
strength in a team?
What?
What's your biggest strength on a team? Like, what would you know that you can provide that's gonna put the team ahead? Like, what task can
Okay.
you be given? Um,
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. Well, I think most of the time I'm really about understanding the core problem of or the core of what a problem, for example, is when we are confronted with one, or sometimes, oh sorry, um, or sometimes I'm, uh, I think I have a fairly okay example for that. Back then, when I was 13, I played some soccer or football, the German version or what, or the European version, just kicking a ball, and I was always the one thinking, okay. Here we could do that strategy. We could try that, but they mostly just wouldn't care and would still do everything in a lone wolf with a lone wolf mentality. But I
mhm.
think I can provide something like that, like what course of action we could take, what would be beneficial or optimal. Yeah,
So you kind of like
if
tend to,
that makes sense.
are you saying like you kind of see like the best way to do something? Or
Yeah,
you,
I try to figure that out most of the time. Sometimes it's maybe not possible. Sometimes you gotta approximate it, but I think I do that
mhm.
most of the time.
You play anything like chess or anything like that?
I used to, but um, I didn't get bored with it. But I think I just played some chess because I had nothing intellectually stimulating going on in my life. That
Hmm.
was between 16 and 18.
Hmm.
Uh, but when I started going to uni, I had so much stuff to do that was just for me so much more interesting that I just quit it
Yeah,
and
yeah,
never wanted to play again. But I
yeah.
played Yu-Gi-Oh! Um,
I love Yu-Gi-Oh,
that
man.
was cool.
I be playing all the time.
I noticed. It's a good game.
It's a man. That game is it's very very strategic, dude. Like you
Yeah.
can't fuck up. Can't like, and if you lose the fucking you lose fucking the coin swap, and you're playing against somebody good, you're probably gonna lose, man. I mean, the numbers jump down. Like, let's say hypothetically, if I go first, like my chances of winning is like 66%. But then if I go second, my shit's like 44%, you know.
Yeah.
So that shit like drastically drops just going second. And it's just like you just know, like as soon as a person gets through a few cards and like you try to stop them and they still keep going, you're like, fuck, I'm fucked. Like he's gonna set up the whole board. I might as well quit, you know. Um, that's kind of annoying about that. But it's fun though. It's fun though because you end up having to read a lot and you don't even notice it
Yeah.
because you see a card and you're like, fuck, I gotta read this. I gotta dissect. Like, where's this card actually doing so that I can like know which card to hit so that he can't get to the combo because there's cards that like allow you to bridge
Yeah.
quicker to your combo or stronger to your combo. And you got to hit those cards because then it will stop them from like, maybe they don't have all three monsters out. They have one of them out. Even though he's a strong monster and he can negate things, he can only negate
Yeah.
one thing, right? So you actually have a chance on getting on the board. Um, so you got to kind of figure out that card in everyone's deck, which is different, because like you kind of know your deck, but you don't know
Yeah.
other people's deck. And that's what I'm kind of
Yeah.
seeing a lot in life. It's like you kind of learn your style,
Mm.
but then you also got to learn other people's styles so that you can defend yourself. It's kind of like basketball to a degree. Like if you get to your spot, you're going to make the shot, but people are going to try to stop you from getting to your spot. Um, so it's interesting.
Yeah, I get that.
Um, Thomas, anything, man?
I think we're done, man.
Thomas is
Yeah.
done. Okay.
Really? Was
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was it
yeah.
that obvious or
Okay, man. Let me go ahead and finish that part.
Oh,
So we ended up, you're gonna be surprised here, man. You're gonna be
no
surprised.
way. No
Yeah,
way.
you're gonna be surprised, man. Um,
Okay.
yeah, tease like I'm done here. Um, I was trying to, you know, so man, we got you down as INTJ, bro. Uh
Okay, that's that's interesting.
Yeah. So what was easy to tell is that you're responding structure and abstract, right? So we knew easily we were down to two types, INTP and INTJ. Uh clearly clear as base. You seem to be direct, dude. Everything you say is not informative, it's close-ended, which means there's no wiggle room. It is like it is what you said. Like it's like we can't misinterpret what you're saying.
Hmm.
So we had to hit you for direct there. And then even when I asked you about being on a team, you hit me with NI, dude. You hit me with NI. Like I kind of know the best way to do it. Like you're kind of like synthesizing the information into one point. So you can kind of like course correct people, like you said, and that's an NI thing. Based off that, man, we had to hit you for INTJ. And I kind of figured it based off the picture you posted in selfie today that you're gonna be INTJ. But
Well,
I had to
one
play it
funny
out.
story maybe that I think would feed also into that picture is I strategized this interview quite quite a bit. I knew that um I thought that well uh if I planned this picture you would use that for your thumbnail and stuff.
So you're thinking ahead. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I
And I
usually
really
ask people
thought
for like
about
a picture afterwards, you know. But I mean, I mean, I tried to look at INTP. I really tried to look at it, man. I sat
yeah.
there, I tried to look at it, and Thomas was already done probably like 30 minutes ago. But I know you think you're an INTP, so I wanted to be pretty thorough about it.
I
Um,
can accept that.
yeah,
I
so
definitely trust you.
yeah, I really wanted to be
Oh, you
thorough
both.
about it to make sure. But I mean, I think me and Thomas were done probably like in the first 5 minutes. We just kind of wanted to make sure like there was Like there was nothing I was missing here. Just sorry, man. I'm getting direct. Everything is closed ended. Nothing's really
Mhm.
open ended. And then, yeah, you're a smart guy. I'll give you that. You're very intelligent
Thank
guy.
you.
So like
Thank
that's probably the confusion that you're getting. And then also INTJs are very strictly about TI in itself because it's a critical function for them. So
you.
like usually when you see people nailing people for fallacies and like down to the T to what fucking fallacy they're like fucking up, that's usually an INTJ thing. They love busting people on fallacies. Um,
Ah, mm.
yeah, you'll see that because I mean it's TI critic, right? They violated a TI principle, right? And then you just nail them for it. Like, oh, that's a fallacy of this, you know. So T, anything you want to say? Like how?
Um, I'll just add, like, yeah, your TI is a critical use of TI, like, being critical of spreading misinformation, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
That's pretty typical of like that you would hear from an INTJ.
Hmm.
Um, what else? Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty clear, like, you're very progression focused when I asked you about like computer science, like you kind of just went through a bunch of steps, so on and so
Yeah.
forth. You're very focused on the process, synthesizing information, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, like Mercer said, I think we were pretty certain you were INTJ, but we just kind of wanted to
Yeah.
just keep open the possibility, just see if anything else popped up. But yeah, and there was another point where I think he was asking you for examples, and you're like, oh, I'm not really good with examples. Like it seems like low SI kind of thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, INTJs, ENTJs, we could struggle providing examples. When somebody's like, oh, well, you know, they're asking for some kind of like reference points. Like, well, you're asking me to use SI, and that's like, we suck with SI. So
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I
But
mean,
this was okay. But it's interesting because I thought that would be like SI demon. And I thought I think I remember my past relatively well, but I just keep forgetting examples, but sometimes they pop up again.
mhm.
So that's interesting. And I thought I was kind of outcome for sure because I also try to plan things out, but that's maybe just the NT temperament or
Yeah.
whatever.
well, it's
But
NI.
yes, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, and I was
Okay,
gonna
okay.
be like, okay, well, I'm seeing this next week. I need to plan for it now. Like,
Mm.
they're big on, let's say, preparation, right? For
Mm.
preparation. You know, I mean, INTP, I just can't see
Mm.
just for the fact of like um I mean, I don't really see any informative, dude. Everything is closed
Hmm.
ended. I think
Yeah.
the reason why you thought you were an INTP is because you have the NI synthesizing, right? And that one kind of,
Okay.
is a lot tougher to see, or whatnot. It can make you think someone's a different type, because they're not just like, I want X, Y, and Z. Like, I want this. Like, this is what has to happen. They're kind of like, taking principles and abstract things and like binding them in their head and just, it's not like, oh, I,
Yeah.
I want this, I want this, like you're not gonna be like me. So, it's like a different version of like we were talking about earlier.
Mm.
Um, and if people aren't careful, they will mistype those people as INTP. Um,
Mm.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That's
I
interesting. Okay.
I think it's pretty common for INTJs to think that they're outcome focused because of NI.
yeah,
But I
Mm.
think, like, often when you talk to an INTJ about like their planning is more like loose. Like they'll have like, well, we might use physical checklists, but often, like for me, it's often just like kind of like a mental checklist of things that I need to get done, and
Yeah, yeah.
it may or may not have to get done in a specific order. Like there's some kind of wiggle room. Like, oh, I need to get this, and this done. Like these are kind of like the priorities. So not try to get those out of the way first, and then get to the other things. Um, but yeah, yeah, like he's saying, there's no
yeah.
there's you're direct. There's no like interpreting what you have to say.
Oh.
And
Yeah, and I'll say a lot of times, INTJs will think their outcome because, and I can go straight to the end product, right? Because it
mhm.
knows the product at the end,
Yeah.
right? But it's
Yeah.
all about
Yeah.
how they get there, right? I made a very good like basketball analogy. If I was like, okay, I need you to make 10 3-pointers, right? The INTJ will get lost in the process and they may like figure out, the best shooting for them, right? instead of like, and they'll
Uh,
get so lost into it that they'll forget about making the 10 fucking baskets, right? While like the
yeah,
alpha
yeah.
people will do just what they need to do to get to that outcome, right?
Uh,
But then they won't really, a lot of times, they may not walk away with many things. Like, as the INTJ is going to walk away with the perfect shooting form, right? So when they hit those 10 shots, they're going to walk away with the perfect shooting form, right? And maybe they
mm,
could take
mm,
that to another aspects of their life, right? Because it's a journey for them,
uh.
right? And
Okay.
yeah.
That's interesting because I thought I was always giving a lot of information that kinda is maybe also characteristic of informative.
Mhm.
So okay, that's interesting, but makes
So
sense. Makes sense.
yeah, so the informative is like open. A lot of times, like if you think about it, it's open communication. So it's like sometimes when they say something, it can be taken one or two ways. While like direct is pretty much closed-ended stuff. Like when someone says something, it's closed-ended. Like there's no like, oh, what did this person say? It's like, no, 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 it's right there. Um, but I do think like if a lot of INTJs can be responding and introverted, so they kind of don't want to ruffle too many things or like say anything that can alarm people too much.
Yeah.
So they'll be careful with their words so they can think that they're informative, but like everything is like pretty direct. Um,
Yeah.
that's good.
Informative people could be annoying at times. Like Mercer's like used the example of his cousin. Like instead, like I think the example Mercer used is like, he was eating wings or something, and instead of saying, "Hey Mercer, can I get a wing?" They're like, "Oh, those wings smell good," and they're expecting you to and understand that they're asking for a wing, or like,
Mhm.
basically. And often, like, yes, an informative person will basically they'll do something like that, and then like I'll realize after the fact, like, oh,
Yeah.
that's what they were actually trying to communicate, but they were just doing it informatively, and I completely missed it.
Me too. I used to like
Okay.
So
when I was younger, somebody would do something like that. I would just eat all my wings, and then they'd be looking at me like, looking at me like,
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 oh,
bro,
those
you
wings
gonna
smell
give
good. Okay,
somebody a
thanks.
wing? Like, no, bitch, you can ask for it. Bro, so
There.
but
This
now
is
it's like,
funny.
I've noticed that like a lot of people kind of put you in situations where you gotta fucking decode what they said, which is kind of fucking annoying because it's like two
It's
steps.
annoying.
It's two
Yeah.
steps. It's like, oh shit, gotta decode this, you know. And a lot of times, like
It's
if I'm dealing with a woman or something, it's like gotta decode this.
Yep, yep.
you need an encryption algorithm to solve
Gotta
that.
decode this shit. Oh, what are they really saying here? Because it's not fucking direct. But a lot of things with
Okay.
direct is it can fuck you because what you said is what you said,
Mm,
right? You can't hit somebody with what you took that too far, or you took that out of context, or I wasn't really saying it like that. You can't really say that with direct, but with
mm,
informative communication, you got to let it out.
mm.
I didn't really. That's not what I really said from that. Well, is that what you got from that? They can play that game with you, right?
Uh,
Um, so that's the good thing about being informative,
mm,
um,
mm.
getting people to buy into something. But yeah, I mean,
Interesting,
any
interesting.
any questions, man? Anything?
Yeah, possibly about subtype or instinct, something, if you have picked up on anything like that.
Probably normalize it, man. Probably normalize
Ah,
it.
okay.
Normalize
Okay,
it.
that would be
Um,
like holistic perceiving function and analytic judging function or something like that.
Something
I
like
think.
that. But uh, it's very important to make sure you go through like kind of all of them and see how do your perceiving functions sit all, and then see how all your judging functions sit all. Dario said that's the better way to look at it. Um, so, but that's like the other way is a quicker way. But the more thorough way is to look at all of your judging functions and see what like is the overall pattern there, and then look at all your
Mm,
perceiving functions and see what the overall pattern there. I think you're more normalizing, but here I think we're treading into like new waters. I would say like you're more normalizing, harmonizing, because you
mm,
seem to care about like harmony in the group and everything of that nature.
yeah.
So I would say normalizing slash harmonizing on that
Okay.
note. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it, bro.
Maybe one other question. It was always interesting to me after I discovered more
Mhm.
thorough, better typology, how hereditary it actually is, or is it in any way genetic?
I think that it probably has a lot to do with genetics because if you look at a lot of things in life, it seems like genetics seem to run about 60% of the factors of a lot of things. So I would
Yes,
probably
yes.
say there's something there. What I would say is that I've noticed that a lot of just like NTs or whatnot seem to have like certain things. For myself, I've had like dyslexia and stuff, and dyspraxia. So and I've noticed that like other NTs have other things, whether it be Asperger's or like that type of thing. So it seems to be something in the genetic order with that. I think maybe in the future you'll see more. Um, but I mean, there's so many things that go into mating and so many possibilities that could come out that I don't think you can like wire it down, but I do think a lot of it is genetic, right?
Okay.
Because there's like so many, like when you look at the chromosomes, it gets way more complex than that.
Yeah,
With
yeah, yeah.
different like, mitosis and shit like that, with the
Hmm.
like, how to it can just mismatch in different ways. So I think it opens up a
Yeah.
possibility for anything. But I do think that, you know, um, if two like ends get together, you probably got a higher chance of, of an end, just in case, like probability. But I do think like don't be surprised if you get straight S's. It's all probability at the end of the day. Doesn't mean for certain. It's
True.
probability.
Absolutely true.
So
Yeah, yeah. I get that. Yeah, I get
maybe
that.
Thomas can talk about something.
I mean, I really don't know. I mean, there's also the question of when, like, at what point are you your type? I mean, I think you're at least born with your type. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Seems
probably it
consistent.
probably predates birth at least to some degree. I don't know. I don't know if you'd say that it's something that's determined from conception though. Um, that's an interesting question. I don't know that we'll ever be able to answer that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, certain people seem to have a lot of intuitive children. Like I'm one of
Hmm.
three kids, and two of my mother's three kids were intuitive, and she's intuitive. I don't know. There might be certain patterns you might be able to pick out. But I think Mercer's like you and a lot of you are you and your siblings are intuitive, right?
Yeah, a lot of them
So
are.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
but then like if you look at like my father's side of the family, like they were my grandparents had six kids, and one or maybe two out of the six were intuitive. The rest were
Hmm.
sensors.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, don't really know what to say. I mean, it's I think as more and more we're also finding out about the importance of like epigenetics and
Mhm.
things that a mother does might affect the expression of like when she's pregnant might affect the expression of certain genes as well as I I heard like a few weeks ago that like let's say like somebody went through like really bad trauma like the Holocaust or something. It's not only their children, but their children's will have their epigenetics will be affected
Mhm.
by something like
Yeah.
the trauma is passed down genetically,
Mhm.
which is pretty interesting. So
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think I've read something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of seen something like in a book. It's called like The Good Genes or whatnot. I mean, it's the book. I think I sent it to you. I think I sent it to you. Something about the good genes, but it talks about like
Yeah,
certain
yes. I remember.
epigenetics that allow people to be more focused. And if you were to play around with that, you could probably figure out like, okay, this expression may lead you to be more NI, right? Because NI is a lot more about focus.
Hmm.
Or like, these may push somebody to be based off like the gene or whatever, push somebody to be more extroverted sensing or NE. I haven't really looked into all of that because it does get pretty complex. So I gotta like, sit down. Like that's not something you could just like read one fucking time. You gotta look at it over and over and over
It's
and over
very
and over and
dense.
over.
It's very dense.
And I really don't like to like put shit out without it being like, very, very thorough about it. Um, because then you keep having to go over it and over it, which is fucking annoying in the long term, right? And make you like a fucking idiot. So yeah. I'm not on the ENTP wave, bro, with the fucking put some out and then change it and put some out and then change it and put some out. Like, nah, bro, just sit your ass down, sit down, work it through, and then put it out. You know, you can make a couple changes here and there, but like, bro, you shouldn't be changing everything like a fucking new underwear and shit. You know, like what the fuck
Hmm.
is that? You know, um, just fast food ti, like I said. Um, but yeah, well, Alex, man, it's been a pleasure. See you in the
Thanks.
group, man. Thank you, man, coming on.
Thank you as
All right, T,
well.
man.
Was a pleasure for me as well, by the way. It was very nice being here. I think when I just shortly when I discovered your channel, I never thought I would be on one typing session. Very cool too.
Yeah, yeah, it's great, man. Well, see you around, man.
All
Yeah.
right, have a good one.